ladies and gentlemen, this is the Suzuya Golden, which is a tier 9 variant of the Mogami with 155mm guns. There's a couple little fun quirks about her. Let me get to the right tab here. Okay, so a couple quirks about her. She's got a main battery reload booster. And a lot of people love 155mm Mogami, right? Because instead of dual twin guns, it's got triple turret guns. So you basically have a much larger weight of shells. It's 5 turrets times 3. That's 15 shells that you're firing for each broadside, which is a heck of a lot of fun. I gotta say, though, I do kind of feel like moving up to tier 9 is difficult to do with a Mogami hull. I mean, yes, I realize Ibuki is there. I don't have a lot of respect for Ibuki either, but I think that the problem with Suzuya at the higher tier is she's extremely dependent on her HE shell starting fires and maybe getting some AP shells at close range. But that's about it. NBA, has that been your experience too?
Yeah, that's been my experience with the ship.
Okay. Now, NBA is a member of my Patreon, so thank you again for doing that. He's a Patreon supporter. And at tier 3, we do ride along off of stream. So what we do is I actually was on a Discord call with him. He was sharing his screen, and I was literally coaching him and walking him through stuff. You know, there were times where I might say, why are you doing this? And he kind of justified his decision making. There were times when, you know, I might say something, but he's, you know, in the heat of the moment and doing his stuff. So it's not like I'm screaming at him to do something like you might see a coach in a football game screaming at their players. Instead, it's more of a, I'm here next to you. Tell me what's going through your mind and let's walk through things. And I'd say you probably learned a good amount from that experience. Wouldn't you say?
I did.
Yeah.
Yep, I did.
Yeah. She is the perfect spot for IFHE. This is true. So then you have the problem of, do you want to do IFHE? If you do, then you lose half of your fire chance. And that's kind of... The coach screaming is tier 4 sub. There you go. Tier 4 on my Patreon. That's right. I will scream at you for... God dang it. Anyway. So looking at your HE here. 31mm. So the magic number for ships, especially towards the higher tiers, is going to be 32mm, right? French battleships, British battleships, others, 32mm plating all around. A lot of other battleships, 32mm plating fore and aft armor. So being able to penetrate 32mm is huge. Plus, you've got American battleships with 38mm deck armor? I'm trying to remember. So, you know, you could do IFHE. Now, you told me, and by the way, he does have Yamamoto. I asked him about this, but his Yamamoto is set for a lighthouse build, right? You said for, what was it?
Yeah, I forgot.
Was it Yoshino?
I'm looking. The Zuma.
Okay.
Yep.
So you could actually play a lighthouse build for this. We didn't really get into talking about builds and stuff with you while we were doing this, but you could absolutely go for top grade gunner, for example. You could go for heavy HE and sap shells because you're primarily slinging HE. Let me drop some of these other, for example, and then you could pick up IFHE, for example, instead of heavy HE. Or, you know, if you want the fires and the chance at more damage to cruisers and destroyers, that can work as well. So, you know, lighthouse can work on this ship. I just didn't get a chance to mention that to you. Right, so if you want to take Yamamoto and experiment with it, you could.
Okay.
The big problem with this ship is that the turret traverse is abysmal. 36 seconds for 180-degree turn time. Okay, and that's with one of the main battery modifications here. So the reason why I asked him about Yamamoto is because Yamamoto has a buff to grease the gears, which would get the 180-degree turn time down to 30 seconds. versus you've got one of the Suzuki's, if I'm right. So that's 31.3. It can help, but it comes down to really just making sure that you know, where you're planning an aim in advance, and if you can get that down, and you're not like constantly going back and forth and turning your turrets around, then
Right.
you can play the ship okay. Which is another reason why a lot of people like to go lighthouse build for this, because it's much more comfortable just farming at long range. I'm just reloading your captain build
Yeah.
here.
I
So
also got another question. Take off like the reload and put on range mod instead of the reload. I was thinking about that today.
you can experiment with that. The nice thing about this is it's only credits that you'd be losing.
Right.
So it's not a bad idea to experiment with it. What's the range right now? 16.5 is pretty sucky for a long range build. And the Suzuya is extremely sluggish. So yeah, you could try that and see. The problem going against that is that the 155 shells are quite floaty. So,
Right.
if you do that, you're only farming stationary cruisers and battleships. And that's true, Wolfie. You could go to the public test server and try it to your heart's content, and then you're not, losing credits. Now he was doing the dockyard mission for ribbons, if I remember right.
Yes.
So that's why he picked the Suzuya on this one. And in true wargaming fashion, he needed 15 left, and he got like 108 on the third and final game or something like that. So
Something like that. Yeah. So,
yeah, let's look at the build. You've got main battery, main armaments fine, engine room protection fine. I don't think, I mean, you could do hydro, but whatever. Main battery mod 2, absolutely. A lot of players are used to going aiming systems, but you really hurt yourself with the turn time. Side note, if you are going to go for lighthouse build, you probably want aiming systems.
okay.
Just keep that in mind. Propulsion makes perfect sense. What's the maneuverability here? Rudder shift time is 7. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so yeah, propulsion is good there. Concealment is fine, and then main battery mod 3 with your current build and thinking makes perfect sense. Hydro for your consumable. You've got Suzuki, so you've got a buff survivability expert, which is really handy for this ship because God, it needs all the HP it can get. Last stand priority target, survivability expert, concealment expert is a good core build start. Now you did the same thing we mentioned to M-Note earlier. I would be going superintendent here for the extra heal, and especially because you get the extra charge of main battery reload booster, I would go that first. And then I would pick up. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Survivability, always survivability over damage. So this gives you an extra heal, which is the survivability part. Ironically, it also
Right.
gets you more damage too. So this is kind of a really nice skill for that. And then I would go adrenaline rush. I would not take the skills you took necessarily until later if that's what you wanted. You took demo expert and grease the gears. I can completely understand the need for grease the gears though. So I might even put that ahead of Adrenaline Rush, to be honest, with the build that you were doing.
Okay.
The problem is now you're at a 19-point build, and now you're stuck trying to figure out, well, what do I do next, right? Do I do consumable enhancements? I wouldn't. Consumable specialist would be kind of nice to get reload down for your main battery, and then maybe you could do gun feeder for those few instances where that helps, or swift fish might be a good option too, honestly. I surprise enemies with your longer range torpedoes because these reach what 10 or 10, yeah.
Yeah. 10.
So
Yeah.
alternately, instead of demo expert, I might recommend going for top grade gunner. But again, then you lose out on your turret traverse. So if you're gonna go grease the gears, you're kind of stuck with having to go with the 2-point skill, a couple 1-pointers or 2 2-point skills, frankly. So never mind. That's there too, right? That was, yeah. So you could go top grade gunner and get this all in like that.
Okay.
Or
SAT,
you
what
just
do you
take
think?
Instead of top rate gunner, I just take the pyrotechnics.
Demo expert?
Yeah, demo expert.
Okay. And then how would you
All that.
finish this off?
Uh,
See, if she had a spotter
There's
plane,
no-
this would be so easy. You do eye in the sky.
yeah, there's no good way to finish this, unfortunately. Best you can do
Right.
is like consumable consumable expert. That's it.
You mean specialist?
Or
Yeah,
specialist.
yeah, the
Both
one to
of
get the
them would be
reload
nice,
down for
though.
that. Yeah, both would be nice, but yeah, I mean, this only really helps your hydro. So whatever.
Yeah. And then the last one, just whatever.
Yeah. Right. That's the part. That's the problem with this build. You could alternately go with fill the tubes, so you can luck chuck torpedoes more frequently. Ironically enough, in this particular game, focus fire training would have helped you a lot. But that's foreshadowing.
Yes. Yeah, foreshadowing.
Um,
Yeah.
The point that we're trying to make here is that this ship is really difficult to build because it wants a lot of skills, and at the same time, some of the skills that you want to put on it, it doesn't benefit from. So you're kind of stuck trying to find a niche build, which means you can't use this on a bunch of other cruisers. So if you were to put Yamamoto on it, for example, it's difficult to build something like this and then just slap him on an Atago and expect him to do really well. He can do really well. Actually, this build's fine in an Atago. It's not the greatest, but it's fine. Now, Lighthouse build, you could try that too. You skip prior to target one for top grade gunner. If you're going long range, Dr. Ram, if you're doing long range, you could do that, and then there's your build. And if you're going long range, you could drop that for incoming fire alert, for a little bit of situational awareness. But you still run into the problems of trying to make everything work and just not being able to do so. So this is a very tough ship to play. I think a lot of people were excited for Suzuya to come to the game because she's a pretty broken ship in Warships Legends, which we just looked at. But in this particular game, she's thirsty. That's right. I just don't. I'm not super enthused by her. I don't log into the game and say, I don't know what to play today. Oh, I know. I'm going to play Suzuya. You know, like there's so many other, in my opinion, better ships that I could play than Suzuya. But NBA wanted Suzuya, so here he goes. And then for flags, you got HP, heal boost, speed, and then hydro. Okay. You're conserving flags, right? We were talking about that. You don't... Guys, he has like one of each of these that he's using. I saw him do that. I'm like, take them off. He's like, no, but I want to perform well in front of you. Take them off. But anyway, it's fine. It's fine. When I'm that low on flags, honestly, I would absolutely not run with flags and instead run with, you know, just nothing. So we got a good chuckle out of this. Sorry, SAT, go ahead.
You bring in a golden ship. You probably spent a ton on it, and yet
I
you
spent
skipped
$30.
off the flags.
I spent $30.
Nice.
Still $30 more than zero.
Yeah, that's not a lot.
Jeez.
Jesus, come on, SAT.
But we both laughed so hard though, because as soon as he goes in, super ships. I think the same thing for the first game too.
Second game in a row, yeah.
Yeah, this is the second game of our 3-game series. And so looking at the matchmaking, right? Maine and Vermont are pain, and to a certain extent Izumo too if he connects in Los Andes. But Maine and Vermont are like, oh god. And then there's a Malta, like the thing you don't want to see because it's got his AP carpet bombers that will absolutely trash you. So this is a rough matchmaking for you, right?
It was, yeah. It was. I'm not gonna pull Shadow, but yeah, it was.
Yeah. You don't have much to really beat down. Yoshino will trash him too. Hell, even a Tago can, depending on on the side. Yes, it is a Q dump. And this was during a somewhat prime-ish time NA, so I mean we're not talking about like yeah, we're not talking about a ton of you know, not a lot of people on. It's not like it was 3 a.m. or something like that.
Honestly, I'd be fine fighting Yoshino because angled his AP and then just spam him with HE.
Yeah.
You can even just light him on fire again with your reload booster.
Right. Shimakaze and Fletcher are your food, according, you know, assuming you can see them. Blau too, if you can see him as well. Okay, now we were talking about positioning, and NBA went here because he thought, okay, this is a good spot to go and farm. Originally, he thought of going to the F2 island, and I kind of waved him off of that.
No, that's suicide.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
This island is just not really great because you don't have range to farm much.
And that's the problem NBA is going to discover here. This is where, like, if he had a scouting plane, a scout plane consumable, that would be so much better. Because then he could hit the Vermont right now. And by the way, Vermont and Maine both coming your way. Don't you feel lucky?
I did. I really did.
Well, on the bright side, you can just hide behind the island for a bit.
Yeah, so he got spotted by the carrier, which is very scary, right? Obviously, the Vermont and Maine see him. That's a problem. But he does have a friendly Keksarge that's coming up. And go, Shimmy, go!
Poor Shimmy. Gosh.
Poor Shimmy. Now, I had mentioned this. This would have been a good chance for you to actually pop out because they're obviously focused on the Shimakaze. You could pop out, reposition, try to get some shots, whatever you want to do. What were you saying, SAT?
Hey, Gear.
Say that again?
Hey, Kearsarge. Literally parks himself in front of you.
Yeah, no, nice of him. You can't even shoot because he's right there. He's a carrier, guys. He's a carrier. You'll see some gamer words from him later.
I didn't even pay attention to chat. I didn't even.
I was.
Given his name. Yeah, I'm not surprised by his name. It's literally the Timu John.
Yeah, and now he told me to turn out, head back towards C because it's getting capped out. So.
I pointed out the sea is being capped, so clearly Destroyer went through the middle. And this is the problem with Estuary. It's a small map, and you almost always have somebody try going through the middle of the map. And if you'll note, nobody's in the middle of the map except for our Audacious. That'll come into play later.
If you're in behind the G3 island, I think you could have summoned us up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll put it on the mini-map here. I'll circle it here, NBA, but he's talking about this island right here that a lot of cruisers like to play behind.
Yeah, that would have been your best island there.
Okay.
Because then you can pop up if a destroyer tries to contest, and then you would also be in perfect range to attack the sub, both with depth charges and eventually the sub-surveillance.
Now, I had mentioned to him... You know what?
Good. Go ahead.
Yo, sub-surveillance, yeah. I had told him to be careful on the one line because, you know, a destroyer could spot him for impunity there, so. For eternity.
That one's not very common, and there's only 2 destroyers, so it's not as likely. And he can still technically back behind the island. It's not the worst. The issue is just you don't have range, so you can't really use it.
Yep. A little late on the plane here, and I had suggested to him to put the plane up. And the reason I said to put the plane up is because that, even if a carrier player can play around the plane, it might discourage that carrier from dropping him. And it does, actually. He goes for the Keksarge. Wingslinger?
It's a Kearsarge. I think you prefer him to be the target.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can host another bounty event. What do you mean by bounty event? Rip your Thrasher?
You're not leading very well.
Nope, you're way behind.
Like, he's going after Audacious. There's only so much maneuvering room he's gonna do, and he's gonna go flat out full speed.
Right. T264, welcome on in. Thank you for the follow. Let me take a look on YouTube, make sure we're not missing any chatters on YouTube. We aren't. Okay. Now, one thing in general that I didn't see NBA doing a lot of is using his reload booster at the right time. So, you know, he's using it here. I don't think he was planning on using it. I mentioned it to him, you know, he should be doing it because obviously he's focusing on the carrier. So, you know, if he had Superintendent, he's got an extra charge, but it doesn't matter if he's not going to use it. Going for takeout, okay.
As a side note, this is where incoming fire alert is superior to priority target. So you, without priority, since you have priority target, you know the battleships are probably trying to target you, but you don't know when they're shooting.
Right.
Yeah, this is true. As far as the bounty events, I used to be very involved in those, yes, but Wargaming decided to make it so that anybody can opt into becoming a bounty now. So they don't do any of the major bounty events like they used to.
worst of all, they don't even give us new flags. Like, it just, I remember the time when they gave us corgi flags for being a I think it was bounty, right?
Yes. So here he's got an opportunity to, you know, maybe try to farm the Vermont a little bit. But he's heading towards the Shimakaze. And
He's just
obviously
trying to dodge everything.
it's
That's
more
it.
important. I was just going to say that. Yes, it's more important that he dodge everything first and then worry about damaging secondary. So for me, like, I could probably pull that off because I'm used to being able to do both at once. But if you struggle with that, then by all means, just focus on one and, you know, be done with it. So
why are you into the half zoomed in option anyways?
I have no idea.
now here's another time where a plane up would have been useful if he's not paying attention to the minimap as early as he could be. The sub is chasing him, and so it's like, oh god.
It's understandable considering he has like a lot going on right now, so I don't blame him too much.
Yep. Maneuvering, dodging shells first, minimap second, damage third is how I would look at that. You went maneuvering first, damage second, minimap third.
You could shoot the Vermont here.
But again, he's focused on trying to evade and all that kind of stuff. And with the sub right on his heel, like, I can understand the decision to run.
Yeah, we were down 4 ships.
You're down 4
Yeah,
ships?
you're gonna be down for the entire game. May as well just get your damages in.
This is true, so here we go. Now, here come the AP bombers. Like I said, that's your biggest fear, is those AP bombers. So, you absolutely want to be concerned about that. He's been very lucky with torpedoes, by the way. The subs torpedoes have always been outside of range, except now.
These 2, yep.
Yeah, that one you definitely could have dodged with a proper DCP.
Yep,
Also, where's your heal?
there's
It's
the heel.
coming! It's coming!
Now,
That's
I was
like
telling...
7 seconds of heal.
I was telling him as well, and I'm gonna pause it right here. I was telling him as well, he turned back in front of the carry, and you never do that because it makes it easier for the carry to drop. Look how lucky you are. See where those bombs dropped, NBA? They dropped in front of you.
Right. Okay.
So if he was better with the drop, you'd be dead right here. I was expecting you to die right there. Absolutely expecting it. Now, he's gonna turn back around again, and then you're gonna turn right towards him, which again makes it easier for him to drop his bombs again.
Plane.
Correct. Broadside to bombers, and then stern aft on for torpedoes. And see, once again, he's in front of you. See, those bombs were mostly in front. A good number have hit you, but again, you know, he's too far forward with his drops, which is good for you and bad for him.
Also, why are you still looking at the main?
I think he's worried about shells coming in.
Yeah, just the shells, yeah, I'm not...
Now, here, we had the Atago coming in, and then the Satsuma said, go away. So, I didn't even notice this. The Izumo is gone. He's disconnected. See, you don't have that mod. I have that mod. I can see that. Izumo is disconnected. And he failed over the Atago, so good for him. Anyway, so I was telling him, you know, if he wants to go back in, he can, but only while the Hindenburg is alive. Because while the Hindenburg is alive, obviously the main is going to focus the Hindi, right? But as soon as the Hindi is dead, then forget it. So...
He would probably die super quickly with his Bilal there.
Yeah. So
Also,
I told him...
I would not bother opening up.
Really?
Yeah. In case the sub actually does surface, you're going to be spotted for a bit, and then that's when 16 shells come at you, and that's not fun.
Oh yeah, but that's why I said as long as the Hindi is alive. Once the Hindi's dead, don't be shooting. You know?
It was almost dead. I would have just said, well, goodbye. See ya.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, we kind of figured at this point it's probably a loss. The points are reversed, by the way. It's a fun little bug replay. You know, you're up on ships finally, though, so that's excitement. Oh, and the
Yeah.
Azuma
the score
reconnected.
looks the score looked bad, but you were actually fine on ships. And once the Orange assassinated the carrier and the Azuma DC'd, it was actually quite winnable.
Yeah, the carrier ducked in, and you know, I'm glad you caught that. I was too busy talking about other stuff, but yes, the Orange managed to wreck the carrier, which is good.
There was just a lot of things going on this match, and I think NBA just got information overloaded.
I
Yes.
did.
Yes. It is very difficult to be able to handle all that kind of stuff. And then for whatever reason, looked like the main was firing HE.
I mean, I was thankful he was, but
As you should be.
Yep.
if
Unfortunately,
he would have had AP, yeah. If he would have had AP, I'd have been dead. Yeah, I mean,
you kind of have to help against a main, unfortunately. You have to slow
And
down
that's-
here.
That's what I was telling him, but what I was telling him is, you know, again, you've got the Satsuma in front, so make sure the main focus is on the Satsuma. Now, this is something that I was trying to explain to him, and he shot as I was trying to explain. But what you do is you scope in on the target, and you only shoot as they shoot. So if they shoot somebody else, you fire once and only once because of the 20-second detection penalty. So when his guns are available again, then he can't shoot you because you disappear. But in this case, he's like, okay, and he just opens up like, ah, you know? But the main focus
At
is on the
least reload
Satsuma.
booster. Yeah, if you're gonna shoot, at least reload booster since you're probably gonna get shot at.
Yep, and that was something I mentioned to him as well. I believe each time you used a reload booster, I had mentioned it to you.
yes.
And that's not a knock or anything, that's just saying, hey, you know, like, that's important
I did get
feedback,
used
something
to
to
it.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Huh? What are you looking at? Keep shooting the main.
He decided to go into a kite away position for some odd reason. I'm not 100% sure, but he did.
You told me to go.
Well,
Yeah.
so when I was talking about you can try to get into a kite away position, what NBA did was he went into full rudder. And because of the turret traverse on the ship sucking so bad, you know, half or quarter rudder would have been okay as long as he's not, you know, shooting back at you. And when I had mentioned that, I meant like earlier in the engagement, like as you start shooting this guy and he's continuing to come towards you, that's when you want to instinctively try to make yourself into a kite away positioning instead of continuing to get closer to him. Okay, now this part is an interesting part because basically you're gonna have all four caps. You're gonna win. The only thing that they have on their team is a Bilal that's pretty damn healthy. SAT, what do you do here?
I would get in a position where I can camp C. So I would go to F6. I would wait there until the sub was trying to capture C. And then when he does, YOLO.
And that was exactly what I was explaining to him. You see, he just pinged the mini-map there to say, you want me to go here? Yes. Because the idea is exactly that. You stay behind the island. Now, you have to get as close to the island as possible. So I told him, get in, because you don't want to run the risk of being spotted, right, doing so. But you're basically a trapdoor spider. You hang out here, you wait till the cap starts getting capped, and then you just YOLO. Absolutely right. You got Hydro in the ready to go. You got a reload booster ready to go.
Yep, and then the orange is also getting into position. So if he actually spots it, you can just pop out early.
Yep.
Or just YOLO C right now.
So NBA slowed down a little bit here because I think he was a little unsure about what to do when I was describing it to him. But you understand now, NBA, kind of how this works, right? Yeah.
They're in a div, so I assume they've probably got it, even if if NBA doesn't do anything.
Now there's the sub. So at this point he's distracted. So I tell NBA, just go. You know, just get out there, full speed, have some fun. You know, pop your hydro. And what I told him is, as soon as you get spotted, pop your hydro. It's a great comeback. Wolfie, we both expected this to be a loss.
Yes.
It should have been, but the Orange decided to YOLO B and Izumo disconnected, so that pretty much turned it around.
Yes, and they brought a failed div, and the Tago disappeared in front of the Satsuma's guns. So there you go. But you can see the little bit of hesitation there. He wasn't quite sure if he should be pulling out or not. I'm like, dude, just go. Come on. You know, like.
Go.
And
What's the Balak gonna do? Shoot you?
right. So there you go. Victory. And what a crazy game. I mean, he played 3 games and he's like, I'm gonna make you do one of these on your replay stream. I said, okay, you pick. He picked the first game and I'm like, really? I thought you would have picked the second. And he looks, he's like, yeah.
I had to rewatch, yeah. I had to
He rewatched it.
First one was
Yeah.
good too. I mean, the first one was good too.
First one was absolutely good too. But you know, I think it's a solid. Oh, look at that, 969 giggity on the Blau. 3 shell hits to get that kill. But it's a great example though of how you could have easily thrown your life away at so many times in this replay, right? In the battle itself, you could have said, well, this game's a loss, and just, you know, got yourself killed and gone next. And you didn't do that. Instead, you continue to be alive. You continue to be a thorn in the carrier's back, partly because he missed twice, but hey, good on him. So,
Yeah.
you know, it really worked out well for you. I don't know if there's anything in here. Hello, Rob. How you doing on YouTube? I don't know if there's anything here to highlight. SAT, is there any sort of statistic that you think we should highlight on this page? As Staying Alive plays. Good song choice. Anyway, go ahead.
Let's see here. Let's see. For aircraft destroyed, you didn't really shoot down much. It was mostly just surviving and getting lucky with the bombs.
Yeah, the AA on this thing is horrible. Horrible. I mean, just absolutely horrible.
Yeah. The main, let's see. I guess one of the most standout moments is that, well, you survive, but at the same time, you didn't really do that much damage, and unfortunately, that's reflected in the base EXP.
Right.
Yep. Sure. And see, so my thinking is a combination of the potential damage and the damage received. I mean, if I were to stack these two together, I think if I do that, you know, if this goes to YouTube, I think I would do that, because it's really a tale of you were a bullet sponge, but not enough of a bullet sponge.
It's kind of understandable because you're getting chased by like 2 battleships and a carrier. It's like,
And
well,
sub.
you can't really.
Yeah, and the sub.
You didn't really have any chance to do anything.
I mean, any form of damage in this game, you took it, except for flooding.
Flooding, no, yeah, took 0 flooding.
Took HE, he took AP. There's no sap, I don't think, on the enemy team. So it's just Dutch airstrike. I don't think there's any on that the other team either. So it's just,
Yeah, no, there's no Dutch cruisers, no.
you know. Oh my goodness. All right, we'll put the replay render on,
Yeah,
and
it was a
if
fun
you guys
game.
have ideas for title, share, and any questions, NVA, anything else, anything I missed?
No, not really. I mean, just the range mod. Putting the range mod instead of the reload mod. I'm gonna try it out, but
Mm-hmm. Staying Alive can absolutely work. Any other ideas for a title? But yeah, experiment with the build and see what you think about it. Do you have a regular Suzuya, or do you just have the golden?
I just have the golden one. I just got it out of a box, so
Damn, you got really lucky.
I did. And I stopped buying boxes. I was like, cool. This is enough. It's enough.
Skid Mark Kid? What do you think, NBA? What do you like?
I like Staying Alive, but
Okay. Staying Alive it is. Now, one of the other things that I mentioned to him, you know, and again, he's like, oh, one other title option is information overload, because that is really what you were up against in a lot of this.
yeah, that could work too. I wasn't thinking about that. Yeah, I mean,
And you think, just ruminate on that for a moment. But, you know, one of the things that I had mentioned to him as well is he could have been pinging the minimap earlier, right? As soon as he was being capped, he could have been pinging that. He did ping at the Audacious at Wilco or whatever, so okay, cool. At least he's, you know, recognizing the threat. And then he died anyway. But, you know, I don't know. What do you think, NBA?
I like staying alive. I mean,
Okay.
I do like the information overload, but I like staying alive.
No, fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Well, I am out of here, guys. I'll be back in a few.
Yeah, have fun doing the dog thing at the fiance's work thing.
Yeah, it's about 15 minutes away, but yeah.
That's not bad.
Nah, not bad at all.
All right, I'll see you later then.
Laters.
Yeah, so like right here is that engagement where I think he waited a little bit too long to turn out, but didn't punish it. It didn't get punished for it, so there he goes. The big thing I was thinking, SAT, was try to get somebody else between him and the sub.
Mm-hmm. That was gonna be Hindenburg, which honestly didn't survive for too long.
It was Hindenburg, then it was Satsuma, and now it's going to be Suzuya, the other one.
Yeah. The Shikishima would have been the best target. Once main shot him, then you just open up with the reload booster and just do a little bit more damage before you probably explode.
Yes, I completely agree with you there. But you know, and I think it's one of the nice things about doing a ride along coaching session like what I did with NBA here was I'm seeing the game through his eyes like completely, right? With the mods that he's using, the frame rate, the graphic settings, his minimap settings. Like he didn't even have he was still on adaptive instead of full for like the, you know, over target markers and stuff. So like he had no idea what destroyer was what on the minimap. He didn't have any idea what destroyer was what on the enemy team. You know, you have to hit the alt key to find that out, right? So like, you know, there were a lot of little things that I was able to help him out with too. But you know, it's very eye opening watching from the perspective of that player, because you really get the feeling about that information overload, and he's trying to do so many different things at once, and he just, you know, can't. And that's not a knock on him. That's just, you know, hey, that's where he's at right now.
Yeah, like World of Warships is it like once in the later parts when you get experience, it's really just an information game, and well,
Yes.
he's dealing with literally 4 people shooting at him
Yes.
while trying to kill a Shimakaze at the same time. So it's like completely understandable.
Yes. Warships, everybody laughs about being the thinking man's action game, but it's really the action man's thinking game.
Mm-hmm.
I had to think about that for a sec.
That is kind of a good way to put it.
Yeah. So, all right.
Like how many times in replays we're talking about matchups? It's like, yeah, in this case, like Maine and Vermont, absolutely like the worst case scenario for him to fight. Oh, and hi CV, free spotting, GG.
Oh, and the sub as well, and they're all on that one side that he decides to go to. Oof.
Yep.
So, NBA, thank you again for supporting me on Patreon. And of course, if anybody else feels like that would help them, I do have my Patreon link in chat. And of course, I'll have that in on YouTube if this goes to YouTube. Take a look at it. All I ask is that if you do choose to support me on Patreon, first of all, thank you. But second of all, feel free to hold my feet to the fire. Make sure that I get, you know, what you're paying for covered. Okay, this is the first time, or maybe second time, somebody has worked with me and said, "Let's find a time, let's put this together, and let's do it." And you know, it's difficult trying to schedule all that kind of stuff around work, around streaming, around, you know, his life, so, and his work and whatever. So, you know, work with the person, and this is for anything. If you're doing something that you know you're paying for, don't be afraid to just say, hey, let's get this done. So